Do you have a dream? Maybe you do. Maybe it is small, maybe it is big. But let me ask you, do you fight for it, or do you just think about it? I will tell you my story. A story about a boy who had a dream, who was laughed at, who was pushed down, but who stood up again. That boy is me. And I will tell you how I fought for my dream, step by step. As you listen, you will also learn English, because my words are simple, my story is clear, and you can practice with me. When I was young, people said I was nothing. They said I was weak. They said I would never speak English, never have success, never be more than an ordinary person. Their words cut me like a knife. Do you know that feeling? The feeling when people laugh at you, when they look at you with doubt, when they treat you like you are small. That was my reality. And inside me, fire started to burn. I told myself, one day, I will show them. One day, I will rise. One day, I will fight for my dream, and I will win. But let me be honest. At first, I was afraid. I stayed silent. I wanted revenge, but I did not know how. I wanted power, but I did not have it. My heart was heavy, and my mind was full of fear. I thought, maybe they are right. Maybe I am nothing. But then something happened. I opened a small book of English, and when I read the first words, I felt different. I felt like the words were keys, like they could open doors to another world. I realized, if I learn this language, I can change my life. I can go places. I can speak with anyone. I can fight for my dream. That was the start. Every day I looked at the book. Every day I whispered words. Simple words like, I am strong. I will fight. I will not stop. They were not just English lessons. They were my weapons. When people laughed, I repeated the words. When I felt weak, I repeated the words. Slowly my English grew. Slowly, my dream grew. Slowly, my fight began. And here is the lesson for you. Your dream is not dead. It is just waiting. But you must fight. Even small actions are part of the fight. Even one English word today is part of your dream. You do not need to win in one day. You only need to start. And the start is always inside you. Now let me ask you, what is your dream? Do you want to speak English? Do you want to build a business? Do you want to change your life? Say it. Whisper it. Write it. That is the first step in the fight. And when you do, you will feel the fire, just like I did. This was the beginning of my story. The first hit. The first cut. The first decision. From here, the fight will only grow stronger. Stay with me. In the next part, I will show you how the fight became real, and how revenge turned into energy that pushed me forward. When you are laughed at, you feel pain. But when you are rejected, when people push you down again and again, the pain becomes fire. That fire is revenge. Not the revenge of hurting others. No, I am not talking about breaking people. I am talking about the revenge of proving them wrong. The revenge of standing tall when they wanted you on the floor. That revenge was my fuel. I remember one day at school. I stood up in class and tried to speak English. My voice was shaking, my accent was heavy, and I made mistakes. I said, my dream is to, and I forgot the word. Everyone laughed. The teacher looked away. My best friend put his hand on my shoulder and whispered, don't try. You can't do it. Do you know how that felt? It was like a knife in my chest. That day, I went home with red eyes and a broken heart. But inside me, a voice was born. A voice that said, I will fight. I will not let their laughter be my last sound. So I began a secret training. Every night, when everyone slept, I opened my notebook. I wrote small sentences. I am strong. I am learning. I will fight. I will win. I spoke them out loud. At first, I was shy. I was afraid someone would hear me. But later, my voice grew louder. It was like shadow boxing. Nobody saw me, but I was training for the big fight. One evening, I looked in the mirror and I said, one day, they will see me. One day, I will speak without fear. One day, I will rise. The mirror did not laugh. The mirror reflected my fire back at me. And I believed. This is where you must listen closely. Maybe you also failed. Maybe people also laughed at your English or at your dream. But that is not the end. That is the start of your fight. Use the pain. Use the laughter. Use the rejection. Do not cry forever. Do not hide forever. Use it like fire in your chest. Let it burn, but not destroy you. Let it push you forward. Here is a small action for you. Tonight, write one English sentence of revenge. Not hate, not anger, but strength. Write, one day I will speak English. One day I will show the world. One day I will not be afraid. Say it 3 times. Say it with fire. That is your weapon. Day by day I grew. I stopped waiting for people to believe in me. I stopped asking for permission. I started to believe in myself. My dream was no longer weak. My English was no longer just a subject. It was my sword, my shield, my fight. And every word I learned felt like a punch, a strike, a victory. But let me be clear. The road was not easy. People did not stop laughing. I failed many times. I forgot words. I made mistakes. I felt stupid. But each failure became another reason to fight. Each mistake was fuel for my revenge. And I told myself, I will never stop. I will never give up. I will fight for my dream until the end. This is how my fight truly began. A dream, a rejection, a fire. In the next part, I will tell you how I turned this fire into discipline, how I learned to wake up every day ready to fight, and how revenge slowly transformed into unstoppable strength. Fire is powerful. Anger is powerful. Revenge is powerful. But fire alone burns fast and disappears. If you want to fight for your dream, you need more than fire. You need discipline. Discipline is the quiet fire that never dies. It is the voice that says, wake up. Train again. Don't stop. At first, my fight was wild. One day I studied a lot. The next day, I did nothing. One night, I shouted English sentences into the mirror. The next night, I slept early and forgot. I was fighting, but my fight had no rhythm. And when you fight without rhythm, you lose. One morning, I woke up late. My mother looked at me and said, dreams are not for lazy people. Her words hit me hard. I realized, if I want revenge, if I want respect, if I want my dream, I must build a system. I must fight every day, not only when I feel strong. So I built a new rule, 1 English hour every day. No excuses. Rain or sun, tired or angry, I must fight for 1 hour. I made a small plan. Step 1, read 5 new words. Step 2, write 5 sentences. Step 3, speak 5 minutes. Simple, clear, strong. At first, my body resisted. My brain said, skip today, just rest. But I remembered my enemies. I remembered their laughter, and I whispered, not today, not ever. I will fight. And I sat down, opened my notebook, and started again. Day after day, the rule became habit. The habit became discipline. And discipline became my weapon. Slowly, English stopped being a subject. It became part of my blood. When I woke up, I thought in English. When I walked, I whispered in English. When I cooked, I named the food in English. Every action became practice. Every day became training. Do you see the secret? The fight for your dream is not in big moments. It is not in shouting. It is in daily actions. One small step, every day, forever. That is discipline. That is the true fight. I also created a revenge ritual. Each night, before sleep, I repeated the same words. I will win. I will speak. I will rise. Sometimes I shouted. Sometimes I whispered. Sometimes I cried. But I never skipped. My words became my shield. My shield became my power. Here is your action step. Make your own rule. It can be 10 minutes. It can be 20 minutes. But do it every day. Read. Write. Speak. Listen. Repeat. Do not wait for motivation. Do not wait for someone to push you. Push yourself. That is discipline. And remember this. Discipline is stronger than talent. Discipline is stronger than luck. Discipline is the weapon that makes dreams real. You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to be the richest. You only need to be the one who never stops. That is what I learned in my fight. Discipline turned my revenge into power. And slowly, people started to see. They did not laugh so loud anymore. Some were even silent. And I knew the fight was working. Every fighter remembers the first victory. It may be small, but it feels like the world. For me, that moment came one evening at school. The teacher asked a question in English. What is your dream job? My heart started racing. My classmates looked down, quiet. And then, without fear, I raised my hand. I stood up. My voice was still not perfect. My grammar was not perfect. But my words were clear. I said slowly, my dream job is to be a leader. I want to build something big. I want to help people. And I will use English for this dream. The room went silent. Nobody laughed. Nobody interrupted. For the first time, they listened. And when I finished, the teacher nodded and said, "Good. Very good." It was only 2 sentences. But for me, it was a war one. That night, when I walked home, I felt taller. The streets looked brighter. The air felt lighter. I whispered to myself, this is the first victory. This is proof that the fight is working. And I knew I would never stop now. But let me tell you the truth. Victory is not luck. Victory is not magic. Victory is the result of small, painful, boring, daily discipline. All those nights whispering into the mirror. All those mornings writing sentences. All those failures, all that laughter. They became this moment. You must remember this. When you fight for your dream, you will not see results every day. You will sweat. You will cry. You will want to quit. And it will feel like nothing is changing. But then one day, without warning, victory will appear. And it will feel like magic. After that day, something changed inside me. My fight was no longer only about revenge. Yes, I still wanted to prove them wrong. But more than that, I wanted to prove myself right. I wanted to see how far I could go. Here is your exercise. Write your first victory. Maybe you said one sentence in English. Maybe you understood one video without subtitles. Maybe you introduced yourself to a stranger. Write it down. Smile at it. That is proof that your fight is working. But beware. Victory is sweet, but it is dangerous. After success, many people relax. They stop training. They say, I am good enough now. And slowly, they lose their power. I refused to relax. I told myself, this is only the first step. The fight is not finished. So I doubled my efforts. More reading, more writing, more speaking. I practiced English while walking, while cooking, even while brushing my teeth. I did not care if people thought I was strange. I knew what I was fighting for. Victory gave me confidence, but discipline kept me moving. And deep inside, the fire of revenge was still alive. I remembered the laughter, the rejection, the pain. I carried it like a stone in my pocket. Heavy, but useful. Every time I wanted to rest, I touched that stone and whispered, not yet. Keep fighting. That is how the first victory became fuel for the next battle. And the next, and the next. Because the fight for your dream never ends. Every fight has enemies. Some enemies stand in front of you. They laugh. They push you down. They say you cannot win. But the most dangerous enemy is not outside. The most dangerous enemy is inside your own head. That enemy is called doubt. After my first victory, I felt strong. I felt like I was flying. But soon, the voice of doubt came back. It whispered, that was luck. You will fail next time. You are not smart enough. You are not ready. The more I listened, the weaker I felt. One night, I sat at my desk with my English notebook open. The words looked heavy. My pen felt heavy. I wanted to write, but my hand would not move. Doubt said, why try? You will never be fluent. You will never be great. Just give up. Tears filled my eyes. I almost closed the notebook. But then, I remembered something. Doubt is a liar. Doubt is not truth. Doubt is fear in disguise. And fear is only smoke. It looks big, but it disappears when you walk through it. So I made a decision. I would fight the enemy inside, not with silence, but with stronger words. I stood up, looked in the mirror, and shouted in English, I am strong. I am learning. I will not stop. My voice shook, but I shouted again. And again. The words were simple, but they were weapons. They cut through the smoke of doubt. They gave me strength. That night, I created a new ritual. Whenever doubt whispered, I answered in English. If doubt said, you will fail, I said, I will succeed. If doubt said, you are not good enough, I said, I am becoming better every day. If doubt said, stop, I shouted, fight. Here is your action step. Write 3 English sentences against doubt. For example, I can learn. I will learn. I am learning. Put them on your wall, on your phone, in your notebook. Every time doubt speaks, answer with these sentences. Speak them out loud. This is how you train your mind to fight. Slowly, I realized something important. The fight for your dream is not really against other people. It is not against teachers, friends, or strangers who laugh. The true fight is against yourself, your laziness, your fear, your doubt. If you can win against yourself, nobody outside can defeat you. But winning against yourself is not easy. The enemy inside is clever. It comes at night when you're tired. It comes in the morning when you want to sleep. It comes when you make a mistake. It comes when you compare yourself with others. It never rests. So you must never rest either. Discipline became my sword. Affirmations became my shield. English became my battlefield. Every word I learned was a punch. Every sentence I spoke was a strike. Every page I read was a victory. Slowly, the enemy inside grew weaker. It never disappeared completely, but it stopped controlling me. And here is the truth. You don't need to destroy doubt. You only need to keep fighting it. Every day, every moment. That is the real battle. The fight inside was hard, but winning gave me strength. After that, I knew it was time to face the world again. I could not hide in my room forever. I had to walk back into the battlefield, the classroom, the street, the people who once laughed at me. The first test came at school. The teacher announced, next week, each student will give a short speech in English. My classmates groaned. Some smiled nervously. My heart started to pound. This was it. The battlefield was ready. For days, I prepared. I wrote my speech. Simple sentences. Clear words. Nothing fancy. I practiced in front of the mirror. I recorded my voice and listened. I repeated again and again until my tongue felt heavy. Every mistake became another reason to practice more. Finally, the day came. I stood at the front of the class. The same faces were there. The same mouths that once laughed. My hands were shaking, but I remembered my training. I took a deep breath and began. My name is, I paused, then smiled. And I am here to fight for my dream. The room grew quiet. I continued. I spoke about why English mattered to me. I spoke about my dream to rise higher, to travel, to lead, to prove myself. My grammar was not perfect. My accent was not perfect. But my voice was strong, stronger than their laughter. When I finished, there was silence. Then, something new happened. Clapping. Not from everyone, but from a few. Enough to make me feel taller. Enough to make me feel I had won. That night, I walked home with fire in my chest. Not the wild fire of anger, but a calm, steady flame of victory. I thought, this is my revenge. Not by hurting them, not by shouting at them, but by proving them wrong with my actions. Here is the lesson. Revenge is not about destroying others. Real revenge is success. Real revenge is standing tall when they expected you to fall. Real revenge is showing the world that you are stronger than the pain. Your action step: prepare one short English speech about your dream. 2 or 3 sentences are enough. Practice it in front of a mirror. Then, speak it to a friend, a family member, or even record it for yourself. This is your battle. Win it. After that speech, people began to treat me differently. Some were quiet. Some were curious. A few even asked me, "How are you improving so fast?" I smiled and said, "Discipline." They did not understand, but I did. I knew the truth. The fight was working, but I also knew this was only the beginning. The real world was bigger than the classroom, bigger than school. Outside, there were harder battles waiting, and I was ready to face them. Victory gives confidence, but confidence can be dangerous if you think the fight is finished. I learned this when I faced my first big public failure. It happened at a community event. There was a small English competition in my town. The prize was nothing big, just a book and a certificate. But for me, it was a chance to prove myself outside school, in front of strangers. I told myself, this is the next step. This is where I show my strength. I prepared for weeks. I wrote my lines, practiced my pronunciation, memorized every sentence. In my room, I was perfect. In front of the mirror, I was a champion. But when the real moment came, when I stood on that stage with dozens of eyes watching, everything changed. My hands shook. My voice broke. The first sentence came out wrong. My tongue twisted. My mind went blank. I tried to remember the words, but they disappeared. The crowd started whispering. Someone laughed. My chest burned with shame. I forced myself to continue, but it was a disaster. My sentences were broken. My grammar collapsed. I stood there, sweating, stammering, struggling, until the host gently said, "Thank you." I walked off the stage with my head down. That night, I lay in bed replaying the scene again and again. The laughter, the whispers, the empty stage. My enemy inside whispered, "See? You are nothing. You will never win." For a moment, I believed it. For a moment, I wanted to quit. But then another voice rose inside me. A stronger voice. It said, "This is not the end. This is the test. If you quit now, you prove them right. If you rise now, you prove yourself right." I sat up, wiped my tears, and whispered, "I will fight again." Here is the truth. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is the path to success. Without falling, you never learn how to rise. Without pain, you never grow strong. Without rejection, you never find revenge. So I studied the failure. Why did I fall? Because I was not ready for pressure. I had trained in silence, but I had not trained under fire. So I created a new habit, pressure training. I started speaking English in front of anyone who would listen, my family, my neighbors, even strangers in the market. Every mistake, every laugh, every awkward pause became training for the real fight. Your action step: speak English in a small but scary place. Order food in English. Introduce yourself to a stranger online. Ask a question in English class. Feel the fear, but do it anyway. This is how you train under pressure. That failure on stage hurt me deeply, but it also became my strongest weapon. Because after you survive humiliation, you stop fearing it. You realize that laughter does not kill you. Whispers do not break you. Fear is only smoke. From that day, I became unstoppable. Each failure was fuel. Each rejection was fire. And slowly, I stopped fighting only for revenge. I began fighting for something bigger: my future, my dream, my freedom. After the fall on stage, something inside me changed forever. I was no longer afraid of humiliation. I was no longer afraid of laughter. I realized the truth. Pain is temporary, but quitting is permanent. If I keep fighting, the pain will fade and the victories will grow. So I kept fighting. I trained every day. I spoke English to myself, to my family, to strangers. I read books out loud. I watched videos and repeated every sentence. Slowly, people began to notice. My voice grew stronger. My words came faster. My confidence became visible. One afternoon, my teacher called me aside. She said, "I see your progress. There is a new English club in town. They meet every weekend. You should join." At first, my heart sank. Another group? More strangers? More chances to fail? But then I remembered my promise. No fear, only fight. So I said, yes. The first meeting was small. 10 students sat in a circle. Each had to introduce themselves in English. As I listened, I realized something important. Everyone was afraid. Everyone made mistakes. Nobody was perfect. That day, I understood, I am not alone in this fight. We are all fighting. When it was my turn, I stood up and said, "Hello, my name is, and I am fighting for my dream." My voice shook a little, but I smiled. People clapped. Some even said, "Good English." And in that moment, I felt a door open. A door to growth, to practice, to new battles. Week after week, I went back. Sometimes I failed. Sometimes I forgot words. Sometimes I spoke too fast. But each time, I grew stronger. The club became my training ground, my arena. I was no longer fighting in silence. I was fighting with others. And then another door opened. The leader of the club asked me to help new members. "You have improved a lot," she said. "Can you share your method?" My heart jumped. Me? Teach others? I was once the weakest, the one who could not even speak. But now, someone believed in me. I agreed. I told the new members, start small. Speak every day. Use your mistakes as weapons. Do not fear failure. Fear only quitting. As I spoke, I realized I was no longer just fighting for myself. I was leading others in their fight. And that made my dream even stronger. Here is your action step. Find your club. It may not be a real club. It may be a friend, an online group, or even a small circle of family. Speak English together. Share your mistakes. Laugh at them. Grow together. A fighter is strong alone, but unstoppable with allies. Opportunities kept coming. I was invited to join a debate. I was asked to write an article for the school paper. People started calling me the English guy. And while I smiled, inside I remembered the truth. I was once the boy they laughed at. Now I was the boy they respected. This was my revenge. But with each new door came new challenges. The world outside was bigger, louder, harder. And I knew my fight was far from finished. The English club gave me confidence. Speaking in front of 10 people felt easier now. But life always tests you when you grow. And one day, the test arrived. Our school announced an inter-school competition. Students from many schools would gather in a large hall. The theme, Fight for Your Future. Each participant had to give a 5-minute speech in English. My teacher looked at me and said, "You should represent us." My heart jumped. Part of me wanted to scream yes. Another part wanted to hide. A small club was safe. A big hall full of strangers was war. But then I remembered my promise. No fear, only fight. I nodded and said, "I will do it." For weeks, I prepared. I wrote my speech carefully. I practiced every line. I recorded myself again and again. I spoke in front of mirrors, walls, chairs, even trees outside. I told myself, this time, I will not fall. This time, I will rise. Finally, the day came. The hall was full. Hundreds of eyes. Dozens of competitors. The air was heavy with nerves. I waited backstage, my hands shaking, my stomach tight. Doubt whispered again, "You will fail. You are not ready." But I whispered back, "I am ready. I will fight." When my name was called, I walked to the stage. The lights blinded me. My heart pounded like a drum. I gripped the microphone and began. My dream. I paused, took a breath, and continued. Is not just for me. My dream is my revenge against fear. My dream is my fight for freedom. As I spoke, the words flowed. Not perfect, but strong. I told them about failure, about laughter, about pain. I told them how English became my weapon, how discipline became my shield, how dreams need daily fights. The hall grew quiet. People leaned forward. They were not laughing. They were listening. Halfway through, my voice cracked. My mind went blank for a moment. The old fear tried to return. But instead of panicking, I smiled and said in English, "Sorry, fighters also make mistakes." The crowd laughed gently, not cruelly. And I continued. When I finished, there was applause. Loud, long applause. I felt tears in my eyes. I had not only survived. I had won. Maybe not first place, maybe not a trophy, but I had won against myself. And that is the greatest victory of all. Here is the lesson. The bigger the stage, the bigger the fear. But also, the bigger the chance to grow. Do not wait until you feel ready. Step onto the stage before fear kills your chance. Speak, even if your voice shakes. That is the true fight. Your action step. Create your own stage. Maybe it's a family dinner. Maybe it's a video you record and upload. Maybe it's a group call with friends. Prepare a small English speech and perform it. Don't wait for perfection. Use the stage as your training ground. That competition changed me. I realized something powerful. My dream was no longer just about revenge. Yes, I still wanted to prove the doubters wrong. But more than that, I wanted to inspire others. I wanted to show them that if I could fight, they could too. After the competition, something inside me changed. Before, my fight was full of anger. I wanted to prove them wrong. I wanted revenge. But standing on that stage, hearing the applause, seeing the faces listening with hope, I felt something deeper. My dream was not only mine anymore. It was bigger. I began to notice the others around me. Some students were shy. Some were afraid. Some whispered, "I wish I could speak like you." When I heard that, I remembered the boy I used to be, silent, laughed at, afraid to open his mouth. I knew their pain, and I also knew the way out. So I started helping them. After classes, I sat with small groups. We practiced simple English sentences together. I taught them the same steps I had used. 5 words a day, 5 sentences, 5 minutes speaking. At first, they laughed nervously at their own mistakes. But I told them, mistakes are not your enemy. Mistakes are proof that you are fighting. Slowly, their fear began to shrink. One evening, I stayed late in the classroom with a younger student. He struggled to say one simple sentence. I want to learn English. His lips shook, his voice cracked. He almost gave up. I put my hand on the desk and said firmly, say it. Don't run. Fight. He took a deep breath and tried again. I want to learn English. His voice was small, but clear. I smiled and said, that is victory. His eyes lit up. That moment showed me my dream could light fire in others. I realized something powerful. When you fight only for yourself, your strength is limited. But when you fight for others, your strength becomes endless. My revenge turned into purpose. I no longer wanted to just prove the doubters wrong. I wanted to lift others up, to show them their own strength. But purpose is heavier than revenge. It demands more discipline, more sacrifice. I woke up earlier. I studied harder. I prepared lessons for others while still training myself. Some nights I felt exhausted, but I remembered they were watching me. If I gave up, they might give up too. So I kept fighting. At home, I created a small wall of motivation. I wrote sentences in big letters. Fight every day. Mistakes are weapons. Dreams are not given. They are taken. Every morning, I read them out loud. My younger brother began to copy me. Soon, he was whispering the words too. I smiled. The fight was spreading. And then came the greatest test of all, leadership. The English club asked me to organize a session. Me, the boy who once could not say a single word without shaking. I stood in front of 20 people and led the meeting. I guided the conversation, corrected mistakes, encouraged the shy ones. For the first time, I was not just a student. I was a leader. When the session ended, a girl walked up to me and said, I was afraid to join this club. But today I spoke for the first time. Thank you. I felt a lump in my throat. That one thank you was more powerful than all the trophies I could ever win, because it proved that my fight was not in vain. The more I grew, the more I realized fighting for your dream is not easy. At first, the fight is small, against laughter, against mistakes, against fear. But as you climb higher, the weight becomes heavier. People begin to expect more from you. They look to you for answers. They follow your example. And suddenly, your dream is no longer just your own. Some days, I felt strong. I spoke clearly. I taught others. I felt like a warrior. But other days, I felt tired. I wanted to rest. I wanted to be ordinary again. There were mornings when I looked at my notebook and thought, enough. Why keep fighting? But then I remembered the boy who once could not say a single sentence. I remembered the pain of rejection, the fire of revenge, the promise I made to myself. Never stop. If I gave up now, I would betray that boy. I would betray everyone who believed in me. So I pushed myself again. Discipline became even more important. I built routines that carried me when motivation was weak. I studied at the same time every day. I practiced speaking even when I was exhausted. I made rules for myself. No excuses, no skipping, no surrender. And every time I followed the rules, I felt stronger. But the fight was not only about English anymore. It became about life. I learned that the same rules apply everywhere. If you want health, you fight daily. If you want success, you fight daily. If you want peace, you fight daily. Dreams do not fall into your hands. You must grab them with bloody fingers and refuse to let go. One evening, I sat with my notebook open and wrote a new sentence. My dream is not a dream anymore. It is my life. I read it out loud again and again until my voice grew steady. And in that moment, I understood. The fight had become my identity. I was no longer someone chasing a dream. I was someone living it. But living the dream brought new enemies. Not the same laughter as before, but jealousy. Some students began to whisper, he thinks he is better than us. Others said, he only got lucky. At first, those words hurt. But then I smiled. Because their jealousy meant one thing. I had risen. People never envy the weak. They envy the strong. So I turned their jealousy into more fuel. I said to myself, If they doubt me, I will fight harder. If they envy me, I will rise higher. If they hate me, I will succeed even more. Every negative word became another reason to move forward. And here is the truth I discovered. When you fight for your dream, not everyone will clap. Some will doubt, some will laugh, some will hate. But that is not your problem. Your only job is to keep fighting. Your only mission is to stay on the path, no matter who walks away. That realization gave me peace. I no longer wasted energy on opinions. I put all my energy into the fight, into the words, into the practice, into the dream. And step by step, I kept climbing higher. Fighting for a dream is not only about practice, not only about discipline, not only about courage. It is also about sacrifice. Every dream demands a price. And the question is always the same. Are you ready to pay it? I learned this truth the hard way. While my friends were out laughing, eating, enjoying their evenings, I was at my desk with a notebook and a lamp. While others watched movies or scrolled on their phones, I repeated sentences again and again. While some slept late, I woke early to practice before school. At first, I felt lonely. I wondered, why must I give up so much? Why do I have to fight while others rest? But then I understood. They were choosing comfort. I was choosing growth. And growth always demands sacrifice. You cannot have both. If you want to rise, you must leave the ground. If you want to shine, you must burn. My sacrifices were not only about time. I sacrificed pride. I let myself look foolish while speaking. I sacrificed comfort. I forced myself to face strangers. I sacrificed excuses. I stopped blaming and started acting. And with each sacrifice, my dream grew stronger. One evening, a friend said to me, "You are too serious. Life is short. Just relax." I looked at him and answered, "Yes, life is short. That is why I cannot waste it. I only have one life, one chance, one dream, and I will not spend it sleeping." He laughed, but I meant every word. The sacrifices began to show results. My English grew sharper. My confidence grew deeper. Opportunities opened, one by one. A teacher invited me to help organize a debate. A local group asked me to share my journey. Slowly, I became known not only as a student, but as a fighter. Still, the path was heavy. There were nights when I wanted to cry, when my body felt broken, when my mind begged for rest. But then I remembered my reason. I remembered the laughter, the rejection, the fire of revenge, the promise to myself. And I whispered, "Keep going." That whisper saved me many times. Because here is the truth. Motivation fades. Inspiration fades. Even revenge fades. But the voice inside, the whisper that says don't stop, is what keeps you alive in the fight. I began to see the dream differently. At first, I thought it was a destination, a place I would reach one day and finally rest. But now I understood, the dream is not a destination. It is the road. The fight itself is the dream. Every word spoken, every page read, every mistake made, every sacrifice given, all of it is the dream being lived, not just chased. When I saw life this way, the weight of sacrifice became lighter. It was no longer pain. It was the price of honor. The proof that I was alive, that I was moving, that I was becoming more. There comes a moment in every fight when you look in the mirror and realize you are no longer the same person. You are not the weak one, not the broken one, not the boy or girl they laughed at. You have become something new. That moment came to me one morning. I was preparing for another speech at the English club. I had written my notes, practiced my words, and dressed neatly. As I tied my shoes, I caught my reflection in the mirror. For a second, I froze. The face was the same, but the eyes were different. They were sharper, clearer, stronger. They did not belong to the boy who once cried alone in his room. They belonged to a fighter. I whispered to the mirror, "You made it this far. You are living your dream." And for the first time, I fully believed it. That day at the club, I did not just speak. I owned the room. My voice was steady. My words flowed like water. I told them, dreams are not easy. They demand pain, discipline, and sacrifice. But if you fight, they will transform you. People listened with open eyes. Some even wrote down my sentences. And in that moment, I understood I was no longer only a learner. I had become a teacher, a leader, an example. But the transformation was not only in English. It was in my entire life. I began to walk differently, straighter, taller, with confidence. I began to think differently, not in excuses, but in solutions. I began to feel differently, not weak, but powerful. The fight had changed my language, but more than that, it had changed my soul. Sometimes I remembered the old days, when I was silent and afraid, and I felt almost grateful for the pain. Because without that pain, I would never have started fighting. Without the laughter, I would never have felt the fire. Without the rejection, I would never have found my strength. Pain was my first teacher. Revenge was my first fuel. Discipline was my first weapon. And together, they created a new me. I also realized something else. When you transform, people around you transform too. My younger brother began studying harder. My classmates who once laughed now asked me for advice. Even strangers at the club told me, "You inspire me." And each time I heard that, I felt a quiet pride. Not pride in myself alone, but pride in the fight itself. Because it proved that dreams are not just about one person. They are about everyone touched by your courage. One evening, after a long day, I walked outside and looked at the sky. The stars were shining. The air was cool. I thought about my journey. From a boy full of fear to a fighter full of fire. From revenge to purpose. From weakness to strength. And I whispered, the fight was worth it. Here is the truth. Your dream is not only about reaching a goal. It is about becoming the person strong enough to reach it. That is the real transformation. The dream shapes you, breaks you, rebuilds you. And in the end, the dream gives you more than success. It gives you yourself. Even after transformation, the fight never ends. Because the greatest enemy never dies completely. Doubt still whispers. Fear still knocks. Laziness still waits in the shadows. The difference is that now I know how to fight them. One night, not long ago, I felt the weight again. I had been helping many students, giving speeches, studying, working. My body was tired, my mind was heavy. I lay in bed and thought, maybe I've done enough. Maybe it's time to rest. Maybe I don't need to push so hard anymore. That voice was soft, almost kind. But I recognized it. It was the same voice that once told me to give up. The same voice that laughed when I failed. The same voice that nearly killed my dream. I sat up, looked into the darkness, and whispered, not today, not ever. I got out of bed, opened my notebook, and wrote one sentence. The fight is never over. Then I read it aloud again and again until my chest was full of fire. The voice of doubt grew silent. The enemy had been defeated once more. That moment reminded me of the deepest truth. The fight for your dream is not about one victory, not about one stage, not about one trophy. It is about fighting every single day until your last breath. Dreams are alive only if you keep protecting them. The moment you stop fighting, they die. I also realized that the dream was not only about me anymore. It was about everyone who looked at me and saw hope. If I gave up, they would feel permission to give up too. If I stood tall, they would believe they could stand too. My fight had become bigger than myself. It had become a light for others. And this light gave me peace. I no longer needed revenge. I no longer needed to prove them wrong. I had already done that. What I needed now was to keep the fire alive, not just for me, but for everyone walking the same road. So I built one final rule for my life. No matter how tired, no matter how broken, I must take one step forward every day. One word, one sentence, one action. Even small, even weak, but forward. Because forward is the only direction dreams allow. Now, when I look back, I see the story clearly. A boy who was laughed at. A boy who cried alone. A boy who found fire in revenge. A boy who learned discipline. Who paid the price. Who transformed. That boy became a fighter. That fighter became a leader. And that leader became me. When people ask me today, what is the secret? I smile and say, there is no secret. There is only the fight. And the fight never ends. This is the end of my story, but it is not the end of the fight. Because the truth is clear. The fight for your dream never ends. Every day, a new battle waits. Every morning, a new choice appears. Do you rise or do you rest? Do you push or do you quit? Do you fight or do you surrender? That choice defines your life. I know now that dreams are not free. They ask for pain. They ask for sacrifice. They ask for years of discipline, nights of struggle, mornings of doubt. But they also give you the greatest reward, a new you, the person you were meant to be, the person strong enough to carry the dream. I began this journey full of anger. I wanted revenge. I wanted to silence the laughter. And yes, revenge gave me fire. It pushed me to stand up, to fight, to refuse to quit. But revenge was only the beginning. As the years passed, my fight became bigger. It became purpose. It became light. I saw students grow because I encouraged them. I saw shy voices rise because I pushed them. I saw fear shrink because I showed them it was possible. And each time, I felt my dream grow larger than myself. I understood that the real victory is not in trophies or applause. The real victory is in the lives you touch. Still, I will never forget the boy I was. The boy who could not speak. The boy who wanted to disappear. The boy who thought he was nothing. I carry him inside me, like a scar, like a reminder. He is the reason I never stop. He is the proof that transformation is real. If he could rise, then anyone can. That is why I speak to you now. Maybe you are that boy. Maybe you are that girl. Maybe people laughed at you, doubted you, rejected you. Maybe you are afraid to open your mouth, afraid to fail, afraid to fight. But listen carefully. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are not finished. You are only at the beginning of your fight, and your dream is waiting for you. It will not wait forever. You must rise. You must fight. You must pay the price, step by step, day by day. You must whisper when your voice shakes. You must shout when your chest burns. You must stand when your legs want to fall. This is how you win. Your English, your career, your freedom, your life. All of it depends on this one truth. Do not stop. Even if you move slowly, even if you fail again and again, even if you cry at night, do not stop. Because one day, you will look in the mirror and see what I saw. A fighter, a leader, a dreamer who became real. So write your sentence today. Say it out loud. I will fight for my dream. I will never stop. Make it your law, your shield, your flame. Carry it everywhere. And when doubt whispers, when fear returns, when life tries to break you, repeat it again and again until the fire inside burns brighter than the darkness outside. I am proud of you. I believe in you. You are stronger than you know. You are closer than you think. And if you keep fighting, one day you will not just reach your dream, you will become it. The fight is yours now. Take it. Live it. Never stop.